The tennis world is exploding. And I mean completely going off because Aryna Sabalenka, the world number one, isn't just losing matches anymore. She's losing respect. And the reactions from other tennis players, they're absolutely brutal. From Coco Gauff firing back at her French Open comments to Amanda Anisimova refusing to back down at Wimbledon, everyone's done with Sabalenka's behavior. And guys, this isn't just about one match or one comment. This is about a pattern that's been building all year long. Because while Sabalenka might not be officially suspended from tennis, she's definitely been suspended from the good graces of the tennis community. And the evidence, it's everywhere. Let me break this down for you because what's happening to Sabalenka right now is unlike anything I've seen in professional tennis. This is a number one player who's managed to alienate almost everyone, her opponents, the fans, even the officials. And the reactions we're getting from other players are absolutely savage. The French Open meltdown that started everything. It all started at the French Open final against Coco Gauff. Sabalenka lost in 3 sets after making 70 unforced errors. But instead of gracefully accepting defeat, she did something that shocked the entire tennis world. In her press conference, Sabalenka basically said, "Gauff didn't win, she lost." Her exact words were, "I think she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes." Can you imagine saying that about someone who just beat you in a Grand Slam final? But it gets worse. Way worse. Sabalenka then had the audacity to suggest that if EIC had made the final instead of her, would have beaten Gauff. She literally said, "If I go would win me another day, I think she would go out today and she would get the win." The reaction was immediate and devastating. Coco Gauff, who's usually super diplomatic, didn't hold back. She said it wasn't a fair thing to say and that she'd actually prefer to play Sut given her recent dominant read over her. Tennis fans on social media went ballistic. Former players called Sabalenka's comments classless and disrespectful. Renee Stubbs, the former world number one doubles player and current commentator, tweeted, "Really disappointed in Sabalenka's comments after losing to Coco. Show some class, Aryna. I'm a big fan of yours, but you're making it very difficult." The backlash was so intense that Sabalenka had to issue a damage control statement on Instagram the next day, trying to walk back her comments. But by then the damage was done. The tennis community had seen her true colors. The Berlin Open blow up. But if you thought the French Open controversy would teach Sabalenka some humility, you were dead wrong. Just 2 weeks later at the Berlin Open, she was at it again during to suspend the match and Sabalenka absolutely lost it. Security cameras caught the whole confrontation. Sabalenka marching up to the tournament supervisor arguing aggressively, "You're stopping the match because she said that side is slippery. I just played 2 games on that side." She then accused Msarva of only complaining because she was losing, saying, "She's losing for the microphones cut her off." The optics were terrible. A world number one bullying a qualifier and arguing with officials over a legitimate safety concern. Former world number one Andy Roddick, providing commentary for Tennis Channel, basically agreed with Sabalenka's assessment that Msarva was stalling, but even he was uncomfortable with how Sabalenka handled it. The way she confronted officials was described as completely unprofessional by multiple tennis commentators. And here's the kicker. The tournament had to tell fans that their Wednesday tickets wouldn't valid for Thursday's resumption. So, not only did Sabalenka create drama in court, but paying customers got screwed because of her opponent's complaints and her reaction to them. The Wimbledon confrontation. You'd think after 2 major controversies, Sabalenka might tone it down. But at Wimbledon, facing Amanda Anisimova in the semifinals, she somehow managed to make things even worse. During the match, Anisimova won a crucial point in the 3rd set when her shot clipped the net and dropped over. Now, there's an unwritten rule in tennis that you apologize for locking net cords, but Anisimova didn't. She celebrated the point instead. Sabalenka was furious. She confronted Anisimova right there on center court, asking why she didn't apologize. The exchange was tense, with Sabalenka clearly trying to intimidate the younger American. But here's what made this controversy different. Anisimova didn't back down at all. She looked Sabalenka right in the eye and basically said there was nothing to apologize for. It was a legal point and she earned it. The tennis community's reaction was swift and harsh. One fan wrote, "At what point is the temp call out Sabalenka for her behavior? Here she is bullying Anisimova for not saying sorry for a net court point. Let's not forget her rudeness to Coco Gauff." Another added, "But what is there to say sorry? I don't get it. It's a game. The ball came as per the rule and you should play it as per the rule." Even more damaging was the reaction from other players watching. Multiple sources in the locker room said Anisimova gained huge respect from other players for not being intimidated by Sabalenka's tactics. Word spread quickly that the world number one was trying to bully opponents when things weren't going her way. The US Open Ostapenko defense. By the time the US Open rolled around, Sabalenka's reputation was already in tatters. But she managed to make things worse by defending Aryna Ostapenko's shocking meltdown against Taylor Townsend. Ostapenko had a complete breakdown during her loss to Townsend, calling the American classless and saying she had no education. It was one of the most unsportsmanlike displays in recent Grand Slam history. Most players distanced themselves from Ostapenko's behavior, but not Sabalenka. Instead, she defended Ostapenko and suggested the Latvian was going through personal problems that explained her behavior. Sabalenka said, "She has some things in life to face and some struggles. I was just trying to help her to settle down." The reaction from other players was immediate. Many saw this as Sabalenka excusing terrible behavior because she identified with it. Taylor Townsend, who is the victim of Ostapenko's abuse, was reportedly disgusted that the world number one would defend such conduct. Tennis commentator John Werheim wrote, "Sabalenka defending Ostapenko's indefensible behavior tells you everything about her mindset. She sees nothing wrong with bullying opponents when you're losing. The pattern becomes clear." What Tennis Insider started realizing was that these weren't isolated incidents. This was a pattern of behavior from Sabalenka that had been developing all year. She couldn't handle losing gracefully, intimidated younger players, and she made excuses instead of taking responsibility. Former world number one Martina Navratilova, who rarely criticizes active players publicly, made an exception for Sabalenka. In a Tennis Channel interview she said, "Aryna has all the talent in the world, but her attitude has become, we're doing the wrong thing, but her attitude is becoming a real problem for your opponents, for officials, for the sport itself." Current players started speaking out too, though most did it carefully. Agasek, when asked about Sabalenka's French Open comments, said diplomatically, "I think we all need to be careful about how we talk about our opponents after matches. Tennis is hard enough without having to deal with negative comments." But privately, according to locker room sources, players were much more direct. One top 10 player speaking anonymously said, "Aryna thinks being number one gives her the right to say whatever she wants, but respect isn't about rankings, and right now she has very little respect from other players." The Amanda Inosova effect. Amanda Inova's refusal to be intimidated at Wimbledon became a turning point. Other players saw that you could stand up to Sabalenka's bullying tactics and not only survive but thrive. After beating Sabalenka in that semifinal, Anisimova became a hero to many younger players who'd felt intimidated by the world number one's aggressive behavior. She proved that talent and composure could overcome intimidation. In her post-match press conference, Anisimova was asked about the net court incident. Her response was perfect. "I won that point fairly. I don't think I need to apologize for playing within the rules. If someone has a problem with that, that's their issue, not mine." The younger generation of players take notice. Sources say there's now a group chat among several rising stars where they share strategies for dealing with Sabalenka's encore intimidation tactics. The consensus: don't back down. Stay focused on your game and don't let her mind games affect your performance. The Coco Gauff response. Coco Gauff, who bore the brunt of Sabalenka's post-French Open comments, handled the situation with remarkable maturity. But she also made it clear she wouldn't tolerate disrespect. In interviews leading up to the US Open, Gauff was asked repeatedly about Sabalenka's comments. Each time she responded with class but also firmness. "I know what I did to win that final. I played great tennis when it mattered most. Anyone who watched the match knows that." When they finally faced each other again at an exhibition match in August, the tension was palpable. Gauff won easily and her celebration was notably more animated than usual. After the match, she was asked about the dynamic with Sabalenka. "I have nothing personal against Aryna," Gauff said, "but I also won't let anyone diminish my accomplishments. I earned that French Open title and I'm proud of how I played." The contrast between the two players was stark. Gauff at just 21 showed the maturity and class that the 27-year-old world number one seemed to lack. The official response. Tennis officials, who usually stay out of player drama, started expressing concern about Sabalenka's behavior. The WTA, while not issuing any formal statements, privately began monitoring her conduct more closely. Tournament directors started briefing their officials specifically about potential issues with Sabalenka matches. One tournament official speaking anonymously said, "We've never had to have special protocols for a world number one before, but with Aryna, we've learned to expect drama." The ITF also took notice. When asked about in-court conduct standards at a press conference, ITF President David Haggerty said, "All players, regardless of ranking, are expected to maintain the highest standards of sportsmanship. That includes how they conduct themselves in press conferences and how they treat opponents and officials." While not mentioning Sabalenka by name, everyone knew who he was talking about: the Today Show disaster. Just when it seemed like Sabalenka might be learning to control her public image, she had another embarrassing moment on national television. Appearing on the Today Show with Carlos Alcaraz after winning the US Open, she accidentally called him Janik, referring to Janik S. While Sabalenka opened but seemed more focused on Sinner than celebrating with the actual men's champion sitting next to her. The clip went viral on social media with fans mocking Sabalenka for being obsessed with Janik and disrespecting Carlos. Even though Alcaraz handled it graciously, the incident reinforced the narrative that Sabalenka was out of touch and inconsiderate. The locker room backlash. According to multiple sources close to the WTA Tour, Sabalenka's behavior has created a significant rift in the women's locker room. Players are divided into camps. Those who think she's just competitive and those who believe she's crossed the line into unsportsmanlike conduct. Several top players have privately expressed frustration with Sabalenka's attitude. One former top 5 player speaking anonymously said the problem with Aryna is she thinks being aggressive on court gives her the right to be disrespectful off court. But there's a difference between being a competitor and being a poor sport. Younger players in particular have been affected. Multiple sources report that several rising stars have changed their training schedules to avoid practicing at the same times as Sabalenka, wanting to avoid potential confrontations. The divide has become so pronounced that some tournaments have had to adjust their players' social events to minimize potential conflicts. The fan reaction. Tennis fans who initially admired Sabalenka's powerful game and fighting spirit have turned against her in droves. Social media is flooded with criticism of her behavior, with hashtags like #Sabalenka trending after each controversy. Fan forums are particularly brutal on tennis. Comms discussion boards. Threads about Sabalenka are dominated by negative comments. One typical post reads, "I used to love watching Aryna play, but her attitude has completely turned me off. She's becoming impossible to root for." The contrast with other top players is stark. While fans debate Igaz's game or Carlos Alcaraz's potential, discussions about Sabalenka inevitably focus on her latest controversy rather than her tennis. Even her sponsors have reportedly expressed concern. While Nike continues to support her publicly, sources suggest private conversations have been held about her public image and behavior. The media pylon. Tennis media, initially sympathetic to Sabalenka's struggles with pressure, have increasingly turned critical. Major tennis publications now regularly feature articles questioning her sportsmanship and attitude. ESPN's tennis coverage has notably shifted in tone when discussing Sabalenka, where once they focused on her powerful game and emotional intensity, now they regularly mention her controversies and behavioral issues. Tennis Channel analysts have become particularly critical. Former player Lindsay Davenport said during a broadcast, "Aryna has to understand that being number one comes with responsibilities. You can't just think about winning matches. You have to think about how you represent the sport." The international media has been even harsher. European tennis publications have been particularly critical of what they see as American-styled trash talk creeping into the traditionally respectful sport of tennis. The bigger picture, what's happening to Aryna Sabalenka, represents something bigger than just one player's behavioral issues. It's about the culture of modern professional tennis and what's acceptable in terms of competitive behavior. Many observers see Sabalenka as representative of a new generation of players who prioritize winning over sportsmanship. Her defenders argue she's just being honest and competitive. Her critics say she's destroying the respectful culture that has traditionally defined tennis. Former world number 1 Chris Evert weighed in during a recent Tennis Channel appearance. "I understand the pressure these players are under, but tennis has always been about respecting your opponent and the sport itself. If we lose that, we lose something essential about what makes tennis special." The debate has extended beyond tennis. Sports psychologists have written about Sabalenka as a case study and how competitive pressure can corrupt an athlete's values. Business publications have analyzed her situation as an example of how personal brand management has become crucial for modern athletes. The road ahead. As Sabalenka heads into 2026, she faces a crucial decision about her public image and behavior. While she remains world number 1 on the court, her standing in the tennis community has never been lower. Several former players have publicly offered to help her with media training and sportsmanship. Billie Jean King, the tennis legend and advocate for player conduct, said Aryna is talented enough to win multiple Grand Slams, but talent without character won't create a lasting legacy. The question now is whether Sabalenka will recognize the damage she's done to her reputation and make changes, or whether she'll continue down a path that's alienating fans, fellow players, and tennis officials. What's certain is that other players are no longer intimidated by her tactics. The Anisimova effect has spread throughout the tour, with players increasingly willing to stand up to behavior they see as unsportsmanlike. As one current top 10 player put it anonymously, "Aryna can keep trying to bully people, but it's not working anymore. Players have figured out that standing up to her actually makes you stronger." And that's a lesson that goes way beyond tennis. The tennis world is watching to see if Sabalenka can redeem herself, or if she'll continue to be the player everyone loves to beat, not just because of her ranking, but because of how she carries herself as a competitor and a person. What do you think? Is Sabalenka just being competitive, or has she crossed the line into unsportsmanlike behavior? And can she recover from the damage she's done to her reputation? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more tennis drama breakdowns.